Hey guys, today I'm going to be discussing week 12 moral philosophy terms. Here they are: act utilitarianism, agapeism, Aretaic ethics, autonomy, care ethics, cultural relativism, ethical egoism, not to be confused with egotism. I'll explain in just a moment. Intrinsic value, invisible hand, intuitionism. Now, in review, last week we covered absolute altruism, deontological ethics, teleological ethics, divine command theory, ethical hedonism, natural law, norm, moral law, and skepticism. And I gave the example of helping a old lady across the street in New York City, and how the different major systems would look at the situation differently and say what's right or wrong based on those situations. So, for example, God commands it, so you do it. There's intrinsic duty, so you do it. There's a good outcome, so you do it, etc. Right? Well, today I'll give you a different example. Let's remember. Let's see, Logan Bowen, is that right? Yes, Logan Bowen on his Italy trip Italy-Greece trip last year, the one we didn't get to go on this year. Though we, of course, would have had, I'm sure, a very similar situation. Well, anyway, Logan was on the subway. I can't remember. I want to say it was in Italy somewhere. It could have been in Greece. I can't remember. But somebody steals a cell phone from, let's just say from, I don't know, Emily. I don't really remember if Emily Norvell went on the trip, but anyhow, let's just say somebody steals a cell phone from Emily. Logan takes off after the person who stole the phone from Emily. They chase this Italian up the escalators onto the top of the subway station, and evidently simultaneously another group had gone around the other way, and they trapped her. And Logan does nothing other than screams, and the perpetrator drops the cell phone and runs. Now, this is obviously a situation where the cell phone should not have been stolen. So we have this idea of right and wrong automatically, right? And this right and wrong is typically determined by others, or pleasure, or God, or act, or outcome, or whatever it is. And that's what we've been looking at to cultivate just some basic moral philosophy terminology, especially in case you get off into a college course on philosophy and need to know some basic ethical terminology. Well, this week we'll explore this situation with the various different terms that we've just looked. So the probably an easiest entry point to the situation is agapeism. It's Greek meaning altruistic love. It's an ethical theory based on the principle of love. And it could be that Logan actually just loves Emily. Agape loves Emily and is looking out for her well-being. And so somebody might look at the situation and say, no, it's just agapeism that Logan is acting this way. Well, maybe there's some utility in this. Well, a theory that states act utilitarianism, that an act is right if and only if it results in as much good as any available alternative. Well, perhaps there is no good as an outcome of Emily's phone being stolen. So the rightness of the act is, or it results from the good that's reinstating the cell phone to Emily. Aretaic ethics, this is meaning virtue. This is largely what we just read through Aristotle last few weeks. And Aristotle is arguing that there's a character of... you'll have to forgive, my daughter is playing her violin in the background. Let's see. Aristotle, remember, is arguing that character and virtue is developed through thought, choice, action, habit, character, and destiny, right? In that progression. As you think about something, so you act, and so you develop a habit, character, and destiny. So Aretaic ethics, from arete, meaning virtue, the theory first presented by Aristotle that the basis of ethical assessments is character. Rather than seeing the heart in actions or duties, it focuses on the character and disposition of the agent. So it could be that, actually, no, Logan is acting based off of his good character. He is known to have done this in the past, and he has cultivated character and virtue out of this, and so he just does this. People who know Logan know that he has a history of any time somebody takes something from somebody else and it doesn't belong to them, Logan chases them down and does the lion cry at them, and the entire situation is reinstated, right? Perhaps. Autonomy. Logan is self-directing freedom in this situation. He has chosen, so for example, we might approach this and say that Logan has chosen to act this way based on his own autonomy and making a moral judgment about this situation. Care ethics. Per this definition, care ethics, and as presented by Louis Poyman, which is where these terms are coming from, his Introduction to Ethics book, he argues that care ethics is particularly a type of ethics put forth by some feminists that focus on particular personal relations rather than the universal application of rules. So in this situation, a care ethicist would look at this situation and say, no, there are no universal moral absolutes here or any other system or situation going on. It's literally that there's personal relations in the situation, and out of care of personal relations, Logan is seeking to adjust this situation. Cultural relativism. This is a nice situation because it's taking place in a different country, in a different cultural context. So it could be that somehow, I don't know if this is true, in fact I would say it's not true, but it could be that in Italy, hypothetically, it's okay to walk up to somebody and take their cell phone. Well, Logan, being the crazy American that he is going to see this as wrong and very different. And so he's not okay with the Italian cultural norm of walking up to somebody and taking their cell phone. So this might be cultural relativism would look at this situation and say, there's nothing wrong about either situation. It's just that in Italy, things happen a certain way. In America, things happen a certain way. Well, then the question becomes, really, is that a cultural norm? But cultural relativism. And then ethical egoism is self-interest. So Logan might be operating in perceived self-interest out of regard he's not going to be a man if he doesn't step up and save Emily's cell phone. This could be ethical egoism. However, don't misunderstand egoism with egotism. Egotism is selfishness. So Logan, which you'll learn next week, egotism, that's Ayn Rand's selfishness. I'll explain that later. But this is ethical egoism, which says that people ought to act according to their own perceived interests. So it could be that if you're looking at a situation, Logan is actually he just wants to be the hero. There's no moral rightness or wrongness about the situation. He just wants to be a hero. This is his own perceived interest. And so in this situation, he should act out of his own perceived interest. Intrinsic value, well, perhaps the intrinsic value in and of it, good in and of itself, is the personal private property, or perhaps the thief is operating out of their intrinsic value of thievery, or Logan is operating out of his own intrinsic good of saving the damsel in distress. Invisible hand. This is a curious one because this is what Adam Smith is arguing, is the sort of the invisible hand that moves the economy and moves out self-interest in providing goods and services for the economy. We're learning about this in economics right now, but even in moral systems, Adam Smith claimed that self-interest is being driven by an invisible hand. While this might be, may help you see into his rejection of Christianity and really perhaps taking on more of a deistic approach to reality. But nonetheless, just notice that he's arguing for people in an economy acting out of self-interest. And the invisible hand turns their selfishness into general utility. So once again, we have major moral terminology going on in even an economics concept. Which has been my thesis all along, is that really modern economics, and particularly from Adam Smith forward, tends to reduce all of economic behavior down to self-interest as opposed to benevolence and beneficence, which really was argued for by Augustine, Aquinas, Aristotle, and a lot of other greats prior to Adam Smith. Not to mention where we've gone with Marxism in more recent economics. And so, anyway, just re-examining the overall look at the role of morality and moral terminology and moral thought within economics. Intuitionism, the ethical theory that that the good or right thing to do can be known directly via intuition, generally intuiting the good or the right. So it could be that really Logan is just very good at intuition. He's intuitive, and he perceives that there are some basic issues going on here. Emily is perhaps going to miss her cell phone, or maybe she even accidentally dropped it and somebody picked it back up. Well, Logan is intuiting that he can go ahead and right the situation, see what's wrong about the situation. So that would be intuitionism. Now, these, once again, we've just added like 15 different ways of looking at a particular moral situation. You should be beginning to cultivate, wow, there's like 15 different perspectives and ways that people go about understanding moral thought and moral situations. So hopefully this is helpful to look at another situation. Last week was once again helping an old lady across the street who has tons of groceries, and what would be some ethical systems and their approach to that situation, versus this week looking at a stolen cell phone in Italy and Logan addressing the situation by chasing down the thief and growling at them like a lion. See you next time.